My name is Nathaniel Sperger. I'm with the Women's Business Center here in North Carolina. We're really happy to have the SBTRC, kind of a sister organization, over here at the Institute with us today to talk about what they do, why they do it, and how that can help your business. Keep us in mind at the Business Center. The best way to interact with us is through a one-on-one consultation. We've got Dan Stafford here, one of our senior counselors. And if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them during the presentation as Alyssa sees them and as it works out through the presentation. But if we don't get to them, we will get to them somehow later through email, or we'll contact you. If you guys want to put contact information, what you do, your business in the chat as well, go ahead and feel free to do that. Let me see. I think we can go ahead and start. I'll hand it over to Patrick Rodriguez. He's here from the SBA district office with us. We're happy that he's here as well. Tell us a little bit about what he's doing, what they do at the SBA, and how they interact with us. Go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Yes, I'm Patrick. I work with the SBA covering the northeast part of the state, definitely concentrated around the triangle, helping small business owners to access SBA programs. That could be counseling, getting them to the right counselor, depending on what stage of business they're in, what topic, what industry. Also very familiar with the SBA loan programs and the lender partners that we have. Be glad to help folks out there to give you ideas on potential lenders for your industry, depending on loan amounts, industry, geographic area, and also just, where are you in your business cycle, and personally, how able you are to access additional, debt for that business, because it all ends up going back on your personal credit most of the time for small business owners. So that's a big piece of the puzzle that I can help you with in searching for financing. And then lastly, SBA has a program to help certify small businesses, to help them leverage government contracts such as women-owned small business certifications. We have 8A program, Hub Zone, service disabled veteran-owned small businesses, veteran-owned small businesses, all able to certify either by themselves or with the help of the SBA to get them a leg up in government contracting and also subcontracting, which is a lot of the times the way small businesses enter into government contracting, through subcontract. So we're definitely here to help you in that regard. And along the same lines, SBA has a surety bond program for those contractors to help them access and put those surety bonds in place, either for performance or for bid bonds that are necessary in the government, federal government contracting arena. So definitely have a nice program through the surety bond program to help lower the cost of the surety bonds to get into government contracting. And that also goes into the loan program as well. We have a guarantee that we provide the lenders to help them overcome some startup. Loans to startups are risky. So the SBA guarantee of 75 and 85% help incentivize the lenders to go out and make those loans to the startups. And it also gives them additional terms to pay off those loans. So instead of a 3 to 5 year term, SBA loans can go 3, 5, 7, 10 years, which would help those small businesses cash flow better in those early years. And then lastly, disaster. As you guys know, we're in the thick of it with the disaster loan EIDL program, economic injury disaster loan program. And if you're an existing business, you may have applied for that. And we're now working through those applications and increases. And that's a big part of what we've done throughout the last 2.5 years now. So in general, we love to work with our partners at the WBC. They are literally we work hand in glove together, providing services to the small business community. I'm really glad to have Nathaniel and Su Ling there and the rest of the crew providing this information to everyone, and just looking forward to partnering in the future. And if you need anything, you can definitely look me up. Just Google SBA Raleigh. I'll probably be the first hit on Google. So give me a call. Please contact me either way, via email or phone. I'd be glad to help you guys. And with that, Nathaniel, I'll pass it back to you.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you. Thank you for that, Patrick.
Thank you.
And definitely take advantage of the SBA. The SBA's website is a treasure trove of resources and documents and templates and I mean, they'll send you to the right people, definitely. So I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa Mako, the Executive Director of the SBTRC. I will let her decipher that soup of letters and tell you what exactly it means. And we'll be here monitoring the chat for you and make sure you put your questions in there.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nathaniel. And I want to, appreciate my colleagues at the Women's Business Center, North Carolina. We've had a great relationship as far as partnership goes for a couple of years. And Patrick Rodriguez, thank you for joining us. SBA is a huge supporter of everything small business. So if you haven't already connected with them, please go ahead and do so. I'll see if I can get my technology to work. How's that? Woohoo. So the Women's Business Center North Carolina and the SBTRC, my own fancy acronym, we are part of an overall group called the National Institute of Minority Economic Development. The organization is a nonprofit based out of Durham, North Carolina. We've been around 35 plus years and really kind of looking at strengthening the asset base of diverse populations. So mostly what we do is we talk with folks who are in small business or looking to start small business. And we focus our efforts on minorities, women, veterans, service disabled. I'm sure there's folks I'm leaving out, but anyone basically who's interested in starting a small business, we can help you in some shape or fashion with all the programs that we offer. The organization's been around 35 years. We have multiple different programs and services. We've got 3 women's business centers. Charlotte, the Durham one is the North Carolina Women's Business Center of North Carolina. We cover the center and eastern part, I guess, of North Carolina there, and then Richmond, Virginia. We have a Policy and Impact Center. We have a Public Allies program. ICAP is our lending arm, which we can talk a little bit about. And then my program here is SBTRC, Small Business Transportation Resource Center. We get federal funds from U.S. Department of Transportation. So DOT funds our work. And because, all of these programs that you see here, most of the programs you see on the screen get federal funding. So that's why we get to use some fancy, crazy alphabet soup acronyms. And so my acronym is SBTRC. So what do we do with SBTRC? We focus on technical assistance. That could be one-on-one counseling. That could be helping you create a capability statement. That could be walking you through where some of the opportunities are when you think about government contracting opportunities in the future. We talk about procurement assistance. So who buys what you're selling or who buys the services that you're looking to offer. We have strong relationships with a lot of prime contractors, general contractors across our footprint. And we can kind of help do some matchmaking, if you will. So connecting folks with people who are looking to gain access or gain entry into some of the contract opportunities that are out there. We talk about certification programs. So there's a number of different, the certification is a whole another hour and a half, workshop with all the alphabet soup that happens there. But there are certification programs specifically to DOT, and we can help walk through that process, what that process looks like. We don't make the decisions here in our office, but we can certainly walk you through what they're asking, how the application process goes, and connect you with some folks if you're needing some additional support on that certification side. And then loan packaging services, and we'll talk a little bit about the loan packaging momentarily. The 3 key pieces or key goals goals that we have with the SBTRC. One is access to capital. We can talk about the appropriate financial resources for where your business is and what you're looking to do, how you're looking to grow, and what might be a good place to do that. Loan packaging services, basically we can walk you through what the application or what the lender is asking, what type of a loan product might be most valuable or most useful for you, most appropriate maybe places to approach. Patrick mentioned a little bit earlier the SBA loan guarantee services, and we're very familiar with that and some of the lenders that offer that program. We have a Women and Girls in Transportation Initiative, and because they like to make fancy federal acronyms, that's called WITI. So they make that into a word. The WITI, and I'm required to have a committee of professional women who are in the STEM and transportation field. So honestly and truly, I have a WITI committee, which I like to call them my WITI, W-I-T-T-Y, right, WITI committee. But really is about encouraging young women to consider transportation careers and STEM-related fields. And then the Bonding Education Program, or BEP, they call that. It's a more in-depth or intensive training curriculum, a series customized for construction contractors and subcontractors. So that's really kind of folks who are on the job site, who are looking at roadworks and airports and highways and ports, all of that kind of stuff where we're having a lot of construction-related opportunities, and there will be a lot more of those with the passage of the infrastructure bill, of course. You think about transportation, really kind of covers all modes of transportation. So US DOT, we think about highways and bridges primarily because that's what most of us use daily to kind of get around. Also, we do airports, railroads, mass transit systems, seaports. DOT also has bike and pedestrian, avenues or ways that they build and support bike and transit. So there's a lot of different spaces. And the transportation modes that we all use as consumers, really, it determines a lot about our daily life, right? How long does it take you to get to work? What does your commute look like? Are you going to drive a car on your own? Are you going to look for rapid transit? Are you going to look for buses? Is there a CATS line? I wish I lived in Charlotte some days because they have such great access to that transit system. How quickly do we return back to our homes and families when the workday's over? Where's our health care? Where do we live? Do we buy our houses really close to the school district we're interested in? And what does that look like for our commute? And how does our food reach and just basic agricultural, like from farm to table is a big thing right now in the food industry. How does that product reach us? And what does that say about our way of living? So transportation plays an integral role for all of these pieces. Think about the infrastructure, right? I will say the annual public investment in infrastructure, and this number comes way before the pandemic lockdowns were a thing, right? $160 billion in highways, $30 billion in transit, right? And the DOT regulations, so U.S. Department of Transportation requires that any agency that gets funding from DOT will set aside goals for participation of what they call DBE firms. So disadvantaged business enterprise is one of those certification programs specific to the transportation world. And if you're not familiar with DBE, we can certainly walk you through kind of what that looks like and whether or not, who qualifies for that. But just understand that that's a big driver of economic growth across the state, across all 50 states, really. In North Carolina DOT has more than 13,000 bridges, more than 80,000 miles of roads that the state DOT is required to maintain. And that's second only to Texas, which that figure surprised me because I know that we're not nearly as big as Texas or California or some other places, but those other places apparently don't have as many roads that the state maintains. And I think about North Carolina being a dichotomy. There's so many urban places, downtowns in Raleigh and Durham and Charlotte and Fayetteville. And then there's so many rural spaces as well that those state maintained roads have to kind of traverse all the way from the mountains to the ocean. So there's a lot of opportunities with DOT. And again, this number is before the pandemic. $400 million per month was spent on just maintaining roads alone. So think about all those different opportunities. Think about all those contractors and all those workers who are required to really maintain that spending and keep our roads in reasonable fashion. Now, there's some that I would say need a little more TLC than others, but we definitely are spending in the habit of spending money on our roads to make sure our transportation systems are sufficient. What kind of opportunities come up from construction? I mean, everything you can think of, from paving and grading, trucking. And when we say trucking, it's most of it is hauling and dump trucks, right? Moving rocks and gravel and flatbeds that take big, large equipments to the job sites. So when you think about those construction opportunities, erosion, landscaping, heavy equipment operators and crane operators, and equipment maintenance and repair is a big one. Welding, electrical, plumbing. So a lot of these can be used in what they call horizontal work, which is across the roads that stays on the ground level, if you will, horizontal, like roads and bridges and airport tarmacs. And then some of these are also used in vertical, which go above ground. So in buildings, you'll need HVAC and plumbing, electrical, mechanical, all those kind of things as well. And you think about, I always think about the airport. The airport is like a little city in of its own, right? It needs janitors, it needs trash removal, it needs water systems, it needs all kinds of things that you would need at your house, like a little city. So especially in the world of aviation and airports, that there's a whole ton of opportunities to be had there. So what do we think about when we think about starting a small business? And this is going to be appropriate for folks who are not only in the construction world or the transportation world, but kind of in general. You want to have a written business plan, so you have an idea in advance, on purpose, of what your business looks like, what services you're going to offer, what services you're going to provide, who your ideal target customer is, or who's going to buy those services. Want to think about appropriate legal structures. You're going to have to register yourself with the Secretary of State, at least. You're going to have to obtain state and federal tax ID numbers. When you talk about registration, if you're a home-based office or home-based operation, you may need to register with your city or county. It kind of depends on what their regulations and guidelines are. You want to think about insurance, liability, property insurance, vehicle, workers' comp, unemployment, disability. I mean, there's a whole long list, I guess, of items. You want to make sure that you're covered and have the appropriate legal pieces in place before you hang out a shingle and kind of decide that you're going to start offering services and bringing in revenue for you for the business. In construction, there's a little bit more to it, right? When you think about licenses, you have to have a license to be a plumber, be an electric. I can't wake up on Friday and decide I want to learn how to be a welder and then expect to have work in the welding world on a Monday, right? You have to have some sort of experience. Usually it's a training or an apprenticeship in order to get your specialty license. And then a general contractor kind of is just that, has a little bit of knowledge about roofing and drywall and plumbing, a little bit of everything. So the general contractor's license is a little bit more involved and engaged, right? In the construction world, there's also surety bonds, which is a bonding program that is going to be required as you continue to build your business and get into those larger size contracts. So bonding will be part of the conversation. And then if you're looking at working with North Carolina DOT, you have to be pre-qualified. So pre-qualified basically means you complete an application. You let DOT know that you have experience, that I didn't wake up on Friday and decide I wanted to be in bridge building by Monday, but I've had some experience. I've got a safety record. I've understand what I'm doing, and I'm going to be safe on the job site, so I'm not a threat to myself or others. So there are some requirements for North Carolina DOT pre-qualification if that's the area you decide you want to be working in. And so I want to take a minute here, pause, Nathaniel, and see if there's questions or anything that has come up so far that I could answer.
There's not a question specifically, except people really looking for support based on what you're saying. There was a question about funding and how that works. I wanted to ask, related to that question, at what state should a business be to come to you and then, with the idea of working with the NC DOT or in transportation and getting a government contract? What kind of, what is the minimum requirements for a business before they start that process?
Yeah, and we work with folks across all areas, right? So some folks come to us a little bit further along, and some folks are younger, I guess, in their process. As far as the government contracting, you have to have some. It's with a government agency, they're going to expect that you have some sort of experience or some sort of work experience in the field before they're going to take you seriously as a bidder to do work. So there's not a requirement that you be in work a certain number of years or in business a certain number of years. If I'm just starting a business in drywall, but I can show that I've had 10 years experience as an employee somewhere else doing the same kind of work, that's going to serve you well. So have some background in the field that you're looking to do. There's not any like hard and fast rules. As long as you have some sort of experience in the industry or in the field, they'll be able to work with you a little bit.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, listen, this is Phyllis.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys, we all had a meeting on the 6th floor one time, and I was impressed about this program that you all had, or initiative at that time, where you had assistance for obtaining like dump trucks, and you spoke to the need for them in the Virginia, Washington, D.C. area.
There are some opportunities as far as financing and funding, and we can talk a little bit about that as far as where folks are doing that. And that's a good point. Phyllis, I should have mentioned, on behalf of USDOT, we have a footprint that's 5 states. So we cover all of North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and the DC metro area. So we have clients all kind of up and down those 5 states, and we can provide support and assistance. This particular presentation is more focused towards North Carolina as far as the NCDOT and the North Carolina Licensing Board. But there are similar qualifications, I guess, or programs available in each state that we work in.
Thank you.
If I could add something on to what Alyssa's talking about, I mean, with as far as going to the DOT, where Nathaniel was asking where you may be in a position, remember that a lot of contracts will be coming out to the prime contractors. So your market will probably be in a subcontractor situation. You have that availability, and you have, I don't know if I want to call more flexibility, maybe that's not the right word, but you have a little bit more of a avenues to get in. It'll still be based on your background. It'll still be based on your there may be some pre-qualification issues that may come up in the prime based on what you're trying to do, what they want you to do. But that is where a lot of initial opportunities will pop up, and you don't necessarily have to be well versed in business at that point to obtain a contract that way.
Very true. A lot of the government contracting work, especially, you'll start as not the prime or not the agency, not the company that has the contract directly with DOT, but you'll be a subcontractor. So you'll be subbing under a prime contractor, and sometimes you're a second tier sub. So you're subbing for a sub under the major contract, or a third tier, even a little bit further down the line. But that's a good place to get yourself started in subcontracting work, because you're going to learn the language of government contracts. You're going to learn what the cadence or what the timing looks like. When do I get the work done? How long does it take for the payment to arrive to me? Can my business kind of perform in that cycle, or get used to what that looks like before I try and grow into being big enough to be that prime contractor, or have the contract directly with the North Carolina DOT or whatever the big agency is. So if you're looking specifically at North Carolina DOT, right, the DOT operates itself or organizes itself in a geographic territories called divisions. Here in Wake County, we're in Division 5 right here, if you see that, right? But if I know I'm operating in Wake County and I want to do hauling or trucking work and not be over the road for long periods of time, I can reach out to the North Carolina division staff. So each division has a staff, has an engineer, has an admin person, has an office essentially that you can reach out to, share a capability statement and say, I'm looking for this kind of work and I want to start in my local county. Or, maybe I'm comfortable. I've got family over in Charlotte and I'm comfortable going this direction, but whatever works best for you, you're going to identify what the divisions are, and the division is a language you'll see if you're looking at North Carolina DOT contracting opportunities. You have 2 choices. You have division-let, which means Each division is responsible for posting the opportunities and finding subcontractors to work on their particular jobs. Or you've got Centralet, which is in Raleigh, where the DOT offices are. Centralet typically is those multi-million dollars and giant mega projects like I-540 is going to be centrally lit because it's enormous. But the division-let oftentimes are going to be smaller. They are going to be a little bit more local and close to home, depending on if you're interested in working in your own division or broadening a little bit. And it's a good place to get your feet wet and get started. We talk about building relationships, right? If I'm looking at starting a small business, and it's going to be similar to other places. You want to understand who your potential clients are, what kind of work do they hire for, how often are they going to do that kind of work, how can I reach them? I'm going to send an introductory email, and I'm going to create a capability statement. And especially in the construction world, that's maybe a terminology that is going to come up again and again. A capability statement is a one-page resume essentially for your business, talks about what industry you're in, what kind of work you're looking for. If I say I'm in construction, that's pretty broad. So if I'm in construction, do I do hauling and trucking? Do I do drywall? Do I do residential? Am I in the commercial and industrial market? Kind of identify for folks who might be interested in hiring you or working with your business exactly what the company does and what kind of work you're looking for. And if they're not the right kind of person to the person internally to review your capability statement or discuss opportunities, ask them to forward to the correct person or ask them for the right contact details. Oftentimes with the construction world and the primes, the larger contractors, you're going to ask for the estimating department because the estimating department is where those bids come out and where folks are going to be looking to get subcontract opportunities from. So that may be one of the ways to get beyond the gatekeepers, if you will, or get into the right department and into the right area is to think about estimating department specifically in the construction world. I would say to attend outreach sessions. The outreach right now, that most of what I've seen have been virtual, so you can attend from just about everywhere. And training events, when they happen in person, are a wonderful thing. North Carolina DOT has got a great library worth of training events that they'll host in person and online. Networking opportunities, when they're available, I think are a great way to kind of get yourself out there. I would say especially if you're going to attend some networking opportunities, have some business cards and have some capability statements. You'll hear that again. Capability statements are going to be a key to kind of introducing and highlighting what kind of work that you all do. And then
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say real fast. Sorry. If I can add one little thing you're talking about it. If you want to attend an outreach session or attend a pre-bid meeting, sometimes they're known as that as well. Especially for the state of North Carolina, you'll see these things. Pay attention to this. If you see the word mandatory in that advertisement, it means that you must attend that bid meeting or that outreach session in order to apply for that particular job opportunity, because they will keep note of you. They will track you. If you do not attend those events, you try to apply for that upcoming opportunity, they'll go back and see if you were available in the previous past. If you do not show up on their records, your bid's thrown out in the trash can. So do pay attention when you look at these things.
So another thing to mention, thanks, Dan. Another thing to mention is with the stakeholder listing. So essentially, folks who are attending those pre-bids and showing an interest in the job or in that particular project, their name goes on a listing called a stakeholder list, and you can find that stakeholder listing on the North Carolina DOT website if you're looking at a particular project that's coming in your area that you want more details about. The good thing about that stakeholder list, you'll see names and contact details for everyone who attended, so you'll know who was there, who maybe does certain scopes similar to yours or complementary to yours that you might want to partner with or connect with, who the prime contractors were that might be good opportunities for subcontracting opportunities if they're needing someone to do some particular work, whether that's hauling or milling or asphalt paving, all those. So I would say that's a good way to kind of get to know who's in the industry with you, do a little bit of research around maybe some competitors if they're exactly in your same kind of space, but then also some potential partners for some opportunities that are coming up. And then finally, the last piece is the diversity specialist. after you complete those applications for certification, whether that's the hub office with the state of North Carolina, whether that is SWAM with Virginia, whether that's DBE, which is the federal designation in the construction world, in the DOT world. Most every large contractor in the GCs who are going to have those subbing opportunities are going to have some sort of a MWBE program, diversity specialist. They may give it a couple of different names, but you want to make sure you know who that staff is and connect with them, because they're going to have advanced knowledge about what's coming down, forecasts and predictions for what's coming down in the future. So on behalf of USDOT, we're from the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilities, so another acronym, right? And they make that a word, they call it OSDBU. Essentially all the 50 states and all the DOT agencies have a similar program like this, the SBTRC. And you see, here's our footprint on behalf of, we're the purple here, the South Atlantic region. So we talked about North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and the DC metro space, which is up in there by Maryland. Yeah. So that's the footprint in which we operate. But across all 50 states and in the US Virgin Islands, there are similar programs to mine, the SBTRC centers, who can help walk you through what the transportation opportunities are within that region. So there's our footprint and our little pretty map. We'll talk a little.
Alyssa, just I wanted to ask, and in relation to this footprint of where you operate, what is the relation with a North Carolina company working in Virginia or in West Virginia? Do you guys kind of guide in that, how you go about that process?
Yep, I would tell you, if you're in North Carolina, the first thing you want to do is establish yourself with your certifications, all of your licenses and all of that in your home state. And then if you're looking to go into Virginia, say, we can talk you through what that SWAM or that state certification looks like. The DBE has, they don't exactly call it reciprocal, but there's some relationships between North Carolina DOT and Virginia DOT. So your process, interstate certification, your process then with interstate certification is you have to have your DBE first in your home state, and then you can connect with the next state you want to grow into and let them know you've already completed it, and you can essentially give permission to North Carolina DOT to share your application details with the other state, with Virginia. And then the process will be simpler and easier. It's not, once you apply and get approved in North Carolina, it's not a blanket that covers all 50, but it does help open some doors, and other states will be a little bit simpler. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yep. So we'll talk about access to capital, and someone had some additional questions about funding programs and funding opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about what we've done with our WITty Women and Girls in Transportation program, and then a little bit more details about the bonding classes and the construction series. Access to capital, traditional lenders or banks like commercial banks, credit unions, non-traditional spaces, CDFIs, community development financial institutions, and SBA loan programs are offered both with traditional and non-traditional. So really should update both of those categories here. But those are spaces, a lot of these places you've heard of before, the Bank of Americas of the world and the large name brand banks. Sometimes those name brand banks have gotten a little bit more conservative or cautious around doing some small business lending, especially for businesses who are younger or newer, maybe in business. That's where the non-traditional places come in, like the CDFIs. Your community development financial institutions are set up as nonprofit organizations with the goal of building the community around them. So they're really kind of a bit more aggressive, or able to be a bit more aggressive in getting some small business loans out there, because they want to see the community grow. They want to see you hire others. They want to see you succeed and build the community around you. Where the traditional banks, and I'll pick on Bank of America because in another lifetime I worked for them, but really their goal is to return profits back to the stakeholder and return profits back to the owners, right? Where non-traditional lenders are a little bit different. So you've got your commercial loans, home equity loans, collateralized loans, meaning if I buy a piece of equipment, that equipment is my collateral. So those are kind of what you think of primarily when you think about kind of those traditional lending products. There are some non-traditional products. You think about contract financing. I just got a contract financed. I've got the signature where I'm going to start working for one of the larger GCs in the area. And sometimes that contract can be used as collateral or as a down payment almost, if you will, for the loan product. Equipment financing and accounts receivable, which I'd say accounts receivable financing and factoring would be my very, very last choices. Those are very high interest rates, and you're always going to be better off more in the traditional space if you're able to do that. And then when you talk about the CDFIs, the Institute here, we do have a CDFI in-house called Institute Capital, and we'd be happy to kind of connect you with the right folks for anyone who is interested in some small business lending options. For my WITI, Women in Transportation Initiative, we've had certain numbers of events across the state, and in fact, we're expanding that into Virginia as well. So the DOT, the North Carolina School of Science Math here in Durham. Transportation U is a program offered by Women in Transportation Seminars. So that's really kind of geared towards middle school and high school age kids. We've had we have an internship program where we offer 2 female students, so college-age kids who are full-time students, have the ability to get a paid internship and learn a little bit more about career opportunities in a government space or in a transportation-related space. So we've been fortunate enough, the Curtar Regional Council of Governments up in Henderson, the City of Durham, and the Department of Transportation in Raleigh have all hosted some female students for us. And then we do have an annual event, a STEM event, or Women and Girls in Transportation event. So back when we were doing them in person, we had one at the School of Science and Math, and here's Basil from North Carolina DOT Aviation Division teaching some of the kids how to fly drones. So they were outside at the athletic field, and he would fly the drone up above his head and turn it around backwards so it faced him, and he was doing himself a selfie of himself flying the drone. It was pretty fun. The bonding class is really in-depth series specifically for folks who are in the construction world. It's 12 hours of instructional time, so it's pretty in-depth conversations about what the opportunities are, how do I prepare myself. The presenters, myself and my staff, I don't think I know everything about the construction world, and I haven't worked myself in a hard hat in the construction space, but we hire people who do. So bidding and estimating from people who do that for a living, and that's their career, project management and field operations, construction CPAs. I'll tell you, accounting for the construction world is different than accounting for retail or consulting or some other businesses that are out there. So if you're going to go this route, I would say to make sure you have an accountant or a bookkeeper familiar with with whatever industry you're in, whether it's construction or not. But you really don't want to be their guinea pig and say, I think I can figure it out if I read enough about it. You want to make sure that they've got some experience. And I see a lot of folks come to me with, my mom's cousin goes to church with my hairdresser's friend, and she said that maybe somebody could help me with QuickBooks. So, make sure you interview them, if you will, make sure it's a good fit and a match, that they have some experience that'll be valuable to you. And then we also set up business assessments and a one-on-one meeting with the bonding agents or surety agents. So this customized curriculum really is for folks who are specifically have experience in the construction world and are looking to grow their business and build capacity. Educating small businesses, construction goods and services, right, about the bonding, what the bonding process, and that's a surety bond, is a construction bond, and assisting small businesses to qualify for a bonding program, sometimes for the first time, or to increase their capacity for bonding. So I think we talked about this. So these are some of the curriculum or the workshops that OSHA and job site safety, contract compliance for the DBE certified firms, claims and resolution, project management, access and capital. And each bonding series is tailored to meet one particular project in specific. So right now we're working on planning for two bonding courses for this year. I've worked on one in Kentucky, in Louisville, which is a water pump station. So to kind of prevent the flooding from coming into the low-lying areas of the city of Louisville. And then the second one we're working with lane construction is a road work project, I-495 up Northern Virginia. But each project has got very specific goals. You know, flood pumping work in waterworks and utilities is a lot different than highways and byways of I-495. So each particular bonding series is going to have that curriculum tailored to meet whatever the requirements are of the job. Those are some of our program partners within North Carolina. Of course, we're partnering with a lot of the small business centers at the community colleges, a lot of the larger GCs and prime contractors who have been supportive and come to present for us and partner with us. So we're excited to kind of continue that work across North Carolina.
Alyssa, can you explain just really quickly what it means to be bonded? Would you compare that to being certified in a certain area, or just is it what does it mean?
Yep.
What does it
Sure.
offer you?
In the language of construction, right? A bonding program is kind of a cousin to insurance. So you're asserting to the project owner, the North Carolina DOT, for instance, that yes, I know how to do this kind of work. Yes, I've done it before, and yes, I can complete it, on time and on budget, and there won't be any challenges or difficulties midway if I run out of money or my workers at my job site don't show up, or any of that. So you're basically leaning a lot on your past performance and your history, and then it also leans on your company's financial standing. Having a bond, when you start small, a lot of the smaller size, if you're a second or third tier level sub, bonding won't be as much of an issue. But as you grow and kind of get into the bigger size jobs, and you want to be the prime contractor or a first tier sub instead of second or third, they're going to be asking and requiring for bonds. So bonding is a whole cousin of insurance, but you go through the process similar to applying for a loan, where they're going to ask you about your financial standing for the company. They're going to ask you about past work history. They're going to ask you what size or how large of jobs have you done before, so they have some comfort level with you in offering you a size of a project of certain level. So bonding, we could do a whole nother hour almost on bonding, kind of what the process looks like, what the benefits are. Essentially, if you want to take it kind of the very basics, I'm North Carolina DOT, and I want to make a road that goes from Main Street to your house, Nathaniel, right? And I'm going to hire somebody that gets me to get the road made from Main Street to Nathaniel's house. And halfway during the project, the company I hired in order to do that went out of business, or his equipment fell flat and he couldn't fix it and he didn't know what to do. And so the road never got finished. Well, so if the road was paid for with government monies, and Nathaniel only has half a road going to his house, but my tax dollars have already paid for that, Nathaniel, who's going to come and fix your road and put it back in? Right? So really the purpose of a bond is to make sure that before you hire somebody, you're using tax dollars wisely, and you're only hiring those people qualified to make the road all the way through and do it on time and do it to a certain level of standards. Yeah. And then if that's the case, and the company is bonded, wins the project and quits halfway or can't get it done, then the surety company, the insurance company, essentially comes in and fixes the road and finishes the road to Nathaniel's house, right? Or they hire somebody else who's qualified to fix that. But my tax dollars haven't paid for it twice, because I paid for it the first time around when you hired somebody who was bonded. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that.
It's a little bit like insurance, but a little bit different too. But yeah, that's a whole nother conversation with construction. It's important as you continue to grow and build your bonding capacity. Your capacity for bonding just basically means the insurance or the bonding company told me my company is bonded up to $1 million. So I can get approved for backing from this bonding or surety company that I'm qualified to do a work of up to $1 million. So if I'm looking at a $5 million project, I'm going to have to go back and either up my bonding limit, or kind of think about it a little bit differently. And as I continue to grow and work on those bigger projects, then you can work through building your bonding a little bit higher. So some of the services we do, individual one-on-one kind of support. We can talk about procurement. We can talk about loan packaging service. I think we talked about this one already. And then what impact? We've had this contract with USDOT since 2015. We've had 18 bonding series across North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, and the DC Metro. More than 300 firms have participated. And we've been able to help our clients access capital and bonding to the total of $160 million. That 40 million contracts awarded, contracts both public and private, and that's on the low end for us. We're going to have to rework that and add the 2020 number or 2021 numbers in there. So I wanted to also provide some small business resources, some offered here with the Institute and others that are offered at other partner agencies. Of course, our program is the SBTRC, Small Business Transportation Resource Center. The Women's Business Center of North Carolina, Nathaniel and his staff do a wonderful job with helping women entrepreneurs and men entrepreneurs, and anybody can come to the Women's Business Center. The Small Business Administration, and Patrick talked a little bit about that before, some of the services and products and programs they offer. There's also the Military Business Center. North Carolina Military Business Center partners with small businesses to help them identify opportunities across all the military bases and the military campuses across North Carolina. So if you haven't connected with them, and if your product or service would be helpful in the military community, that might be a good place to start. The Small Business Center Network is part of the community college locations across North Carolina. The SBTDC is the Small Business and Technology Development Centers. Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or sometimes called PTAC, they're great at helping folks navigate government contracting world. Kind of it's a maze to get yourself certified in SAM and in the right databases and at the right places, but PTAC is really good at that. The Service Corps of Retired Engineers, so they call that SCORE. And then recently, the Hub Office was awarded the Minority Business Development Agency, or MBDA. That's going to be opening soon, coming soon to Raleigh, to a Raleigh near you. So keep looking for additional details there. But all of these agencies will do small business workshops and one-on-one counseling and a lot of resources that are available at no cost. So these are all taxpayer-funded programs that you all have access to, no matter what stage your business is in. If you're in the beginning stages, kind of thinking through some ideas, or if you're already established and looking to grow, you can feel free to reach out to any of these agencies. And if you're looking at, specifically in the construction world, United Minority Contractors of North Carolina, Carolina's Association of General Contractors, those are the big guys who often hire subs, and the Hispanic Contractors of the Carolinas. Their Hispanic contractors are out in Charlotte, but they cover both North and South Carolina, and they have a lot of really great informational sessions and training workshops as well. And that's our program. I can give you our contact details here. Is SBTRC at the Institute NC. And then we also have a website where we post bid opportunities. So for both public and private agencies that are looking for subcontractors, they're asking to collect bids to put in. So they would ask you, how much would you charge to do X, this particular part of this project? You can look at our calendar on the website there, and I tell you, we post daily. There's all kinds of opportunities that come in, both from the larger primes and from the cities, from the counties, from the universities, from all kinds of places that are looking for construction bids, because construction world is going to be growing. It continues to grow all throughout the pandemic, and with the recent passage of the infrastructure bill, there's all kinds of opportunities that are going to be coming as well. Ooh. There you go. So that was a lot of talking. I'd love to kind of open it up and hear from other folks if you have concerns or questions or anything that we didn't cover that would be helpful.
Yeah, go ahead, come off mute and ask a question, or put it in the chat if you have it. Don't hesitate. This is the time. While we wait for that, I just want to ask, or give us a little bit of insight into becoming a contractor or a subcontractor under a prime contractor, to kind of get yourself in that groove, what is the best way to go about that process? Is it communicating with you all, starting a process, or is it getting on some bids? What is the best way to do that as a very new business?
Yeah, I would connect with those contractors first and kind of find out what they're looking for. It's gonna be easier to get on the bids and kind of win some work if you know some folks who are bidding the bids, right? So some of the larger people. We're having a coffee with the contractors outreach session in Charlotte next week, and I'd be happy to kind of send details to folks if anybody's in the Charlotte market and looking to attend that. It'll be Wednesday morning. But I've got 5 of the general contractors who are the larger looking for subs because they have active opportunities. Yeah. So I would look for what opportunities are coming in your space or in your area that you're looking at working on, and then identify who participates. So who are the larger primes or larger GCs that may be looking for some help on those.
So get the networking going.
Please.
See,
Yeah.
we got a comment here to send the details. Coffee with contractors. So do you want me to, I can send you the email list of people that have registered or that are in this,
fine.
so
Yeah.
you can send them that.
That'd be fine.
I'm sure you could. Can you share the presentation as well? We can go ahead and send them that as well.
Absolutely.
All right. That way you can have the links in there that were in this presentation. Help you start investigating and networking to get growing.
Oh, good. So we got a couple in the Charlotte area. Yeah.
Yes.
So it'll be at UNC Charlotte's campus. Our Women's Business Center Charlotte is another sister organization. They'll be hosting us there, and we'll be partnering with them on a couple of events next week. It is on the calendar events. Thank you.
Alyssa, this is Phyllis.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to be in that area next week. Do you think it would serve the WBCNC for one of us to be there?
That would be great. Yeah, connect with Linda, because I know we were looking for some volunteers to help with the logistics and kind of help people find the right room and get ourselves set up in advance. So reach out to Linda. We'd love that.
Okay, I'll talk with Tiana.
Yeah.
And of course, Nathaniel.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So I noticed you talked with construction that there are some trucking and hauling opportunities, but you specifically mentioned dump trucks and flatbeds. I own a company where we have several semis with reefers and dry van trailers. Are there any opportunities in construction for that type of equipment?
Most of that equipment, my understanding, most of that equipment is more useful in the private sector, not so much with DOT, because you're kind of hauling. Now, that being said, there may be some opportunities at the ports, right? If we're getting products in from overseas that need to be hauled to their next destination or to their the last mile kind of delivery, right? But when you think about the DOT construction sites specifically, there's not as many opportunities on the 18-wheeler side.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the Georgia Port Authority. So our SBTRC program, the one just south of us, is actually out of Atlanta, and he'll be able to navigate you through Georgia a little bit better than I can. But if you want to reach out, I can make an introduction to, his name is Hebrew. I'd be happy to introduce you there.
Yeah, I think you can use the SBTRC, you can use the Women's Business Center as a networking channel or method as well. I mean, we can connect you with people, start a relationship with us, start a relationship with the SBTRC. Having that in place will help you in the future when stuff comes down the line. If you have a connection with us, we channel resources towards people that are, already on our mind because we're talking to you. So
absolutely. And when we think about opportunities for financing and funding, folks who are certified with the Hub Office or with the DBE certification, the state of North Carolina does have a grant program called Retool North Carolina. And my understanding is that's going to be rebooted again here in 2022. We've already been through a couple of rounds of it, and they're finding additional funding. So anyone who's number 1 certified, right, either with Hub or with DBE, and then number 2, especially on our database, we'd be happy to keep you in the loop as far as the application process, you know, when it opens again, what the process looks like, all of those details.
Absolutely. Even if you're not working directly with the DOT or with the state, these opportunities either will help you in the learning, you know, stage of your business, or also in this networking and this connecting and opening yourself up to resources like this that come down the line from the state that help businesses. I don't see any more questions, so we can break off early and see you all later. We'll send you a bunch of stuff by email. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, Alyssa. It was great. I'm glad
Thank you.
we got Patrick in here as
Great
well.
session, Alyssa.
Thank you, Phyllis. Good to see everybody.
Yes,
Same
stay in
here.
contact with us. Contact the SBTRC, and we'll see you around.
We'll be in
Take
touch.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Nathaniel.
Thank you. It was great. Appreciate it.